Hello subscribers, and welcome to this video where I'm joined by Santi today, our bar managers from this bar that you quite often see in the background of these videos. Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Let me ask you, how big a deal is varieties to you?
It's a big deal. Once you start tasting different varieties and you find similarities in them, it's a big rat hole to get into.
Yeah.
So it's always been fun to dive into different varieties, especially when you have them in different countries. And you can see the differences in terroir and how they grow them.
What do you find challenging when tasting varieties? Is there things where you think this might be a challenge for regular consumers as well?
Yes, the difference is quite tiny, and there's a lot to do with how they process the varieties as well. So you can't always differentiate them too much. That's why I think that what we have with Vista Hermosa going on, it's insane.
So with Vista Hermosa, we have this variety garden project, and what you're getting this time around is a little blend of some of the varieties from the variety garden. And for the filter subscribers, you're getting a blend of some of the red varieties: Caturra Rojo, Catuai Rojo, and Pache Rojo. 3 different red varieties, and when we say red varieties, it's simply because they turn completely red when ripe, and they have a sibling variety that turns yellow when fully ripe. So that's for the filter subscribers. The espresso subscribers are getting the variety garden Sachi More, which is a blend of a variety called Villasache and Hybrido di Timor. And the Timor variety is actually a mix of Arabica and Robusta. So typically when we talk about varieties, we talk about straight Arabica varieties, but some of these are actually also have a little bit of a strain of Robusta in them, because Robusta are more robust. So it's typically been mixed in that way, created these hybrids to be more pest and rust resistant. So 2 interesting, or actually 3 interesting coffees, because the third one is the Desarollo from Colombia. Have you had Desarollo on bar here?
Yes, we had it on bar last year.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to have it again. It's a beautiful coffee. I think it makes the perfect morning coffee because it's so sweet. It's so pleasant to enjoy with a pastry or just on its own. So
it's kind of been a staff favorite for batch brewing on the FedCo. To make a big batch of that is it's one of these pleasing, really delicious kind of coffees. And Desarollo is an association of small individual producers based around Gigante village in the Huila region in Colombia. So there we'll find some of the typical Colombian varieties. And I know they're pretty big on growing Caturra in this area. So very balanced sweet cup. And as usual, you can find all our brewing recipes on our website. And we recently updated our AeroPress recipe, so go check that one out.
I love the new recipe.
It's very good and very easy.
Yep.
Right, letting that steep. We'll see who finishes first here.
We'll see. I think you have an advantage.
A little bit.
Yeah.
These are 2 of my favorite brew methods for home as well. The Calita, I get really delicious, consistent results on. I like the flat bottom brewers a lot because it provides a little bit more stability and a more even extraction of all the coffee. And I think I prefer quite often for really delicate washed coffees, the Calita. And then for naturals and more easily extractable coffees, I would say, I really prefer the AeroPress, and I think the AeroPress is fun. So you can really experiment a lot with it.
To me, brewing Calita is almost like a meditation.
One customer once remarked that it's almost like a Japanese tea ceremony when we're brewing this.
Exactly.
It's also nice, and I think sometimes in our busy daily lives, we need a little bit of a break. And that little zen moment of pouring a Calita can be just that. Right, I'm done.
You won.
One of the questions we quite often get about brewing these different coffees is how should we brew that coffee and this coffee? I would say we actually use the same brew recipe across the board. And the thing we change is dialing in the grinder. And I feel personally that dialing in the grind setting at home is the most overlooked part of coffee brewing. People very often just want to buy new equipment or want to test out a recipe, but sticking to one recipe and then really dialing in your grind size, that is the trick for me to get
100%.
magnificent coffee. So do experiment. I usually start a little bit on the coarse side and then go finer and finer until the coffee starts to get bitter, and then I'll back it up a little bit, and that's usually the sweet spot.
Yeah.
You recently got an espresso machine at home.
Yes.
As well. Any tips for the home brewers on brewing espresso at home?
To get a good grinder as well.
Yeah.
Yes, you need the combo. You need the combo, because once you start playing with the grind setting, if you don't have a really good grinder, it can be a little complicated to find the perfect espresso. But it's great to have the opportunity to play at home. It's a lot of fun.
And you brew up the Desarollo. That's a smooth cup. I also think for espresso, like you're gonna get a very balanced, very sweet, super pleasurable espresso.
It's beautiful with milk.
Yeah, really good with milk. Yeah. And then the Variety Garden, the filter version here. Yeah, I would say it's gonna be really fun for you to taste the difference between these, because they're both very balanced coffees. They're both very sweet. I would almost put them in the same kind of like on the spectrum, but still they're quite different. Yeah, and I think the espresso version is going to be very interesting as well, because it's the Sachimore. I think you can really push a lot of body out of that coffee. It's because of that Robusta strain, and it's not direct Robusta. It's a hybrid that is again mixed with another variety to create this Sachimore. But because of those traits, it has like more full-bodied, and it has a pretty good structure and mouthfeel to it. And I think that's nice when you're brewing espresso, that you can really sometimes have this more acidic, clean, like very straightforward Colombian, where the acidity will really come into play as well. And then you can have the Sachimore that will probably have a slight more bitterness, but especially a lot more body going on. So I think that'll be interesting, and probably also really good with milk.
I love having a heavier coffee in the morning and a lighter coffee in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I find it's a different experience, both of them. So that's a personal preference, but give it a try. It's always fun to play with different coffees with different bodies. We're always talking about acidity and sweetness, but sometimes body is also as important.
Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for joining me.
It was a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
We hope that you enjoy these coffees, and please let us know in the comments which was your favorite.